The following short story, The Sun Thief, is an original composition that I wrote for an online short story competition a few years ago. The competition rules limited entries to 2,000 words or less, so I was never able to develop the story to the degree that I envisioned. Since then, I've fleshed the story out a bit more, and the following is the result. I hope you enjoy it. The Sun Thief, A Tale from the Shift. September 5th, 6:45 p.m. The UV warning lights that line the shore and crawl along the cabling of the Bay Bridge are still red as we turn and make our way out across the water. In the west, the last rays of the setting sun crown the white caps below with a burnt orange hue, while off in the east, the brightest stars already glitter over the dusky mountain peaks. Once upon a time, in a world that I now remember like the last dream that comes before waking, sunset marked the time of day when the world was winding down. Dinner was served, homework was done, and necessary projects completed. Preparations were undertaken for the following day, and perhaps a few hours were spent with loved ones or in some favorite distraction before the deepening night lulled the land to sleep and the constellations turned overhead as though affixed to the mechanism of a great clock. For millennia, humanity marked the beginning and ending of its daily affairs in parallel with the rising and setting of the sun. Then, 3 years ago now, the incursion of a retrovirus brought about what scientists call a genetic shift, and the pattern of ages was overturned within a matter of weeks. At its end, some 95% of the human race was left unable to endure exposure to direct sunlight for more than a few moments without succumbing to irreversible neurological failure. In the drawing of a cosmic breath, the moon and stars had stolen the children of the sun. The scant 5% or so of us who remain unaffected by what was popularly called the shift are known as daylighters or day shifters, at least as far as polite conversation is concerned. Between dawn and dusk, the world largely rests in our hands. We come from all walks of life, with frustratingly little in common that scientists have been able to isolate in their search for a cure. I was a janitor for our local school district when the shift hit the fan, as many people like to say. Now I'm a strange mixture of EMT, police officer, and social worker. I'm paid more than I imagined I ever would be in the old world, but there are some things that money can't compensate for, and I've seen plenty such things since all of this began. But then, if we didn't handle it, who would? Life has to go on somehow. I'm told that I'm an essential part of that continuation, and paid accordingly. I'd like to think that I'm helping, but some days I feel like I'm just cleaning up. Still effectively a janitor, just of another sort. For almost 2 years now, I've been partnered with a man named Roger Delaney. He talks more than I wish he would sometimes. He blames it on his Italian heritage, although I think it's a nervous habit myself. But he's easygoing enough, and we work well together. It's Roger who's driving as we head home across the bridge. Just as we're about to reach the shore, the bright crown of the sun slips below the horizon out across the bay. Almost instantly, the lights strung along the bridge cabling and scattered throughout neighborhoods in the surrounding hillsides turn from red to green. In the driver's seat, Roger remarks dryly, "Ladies and gentlemen, you are now free to move about the cabin area." "And we are officially off shift," I reply. As I say this, I can almost hear the alarm tone of my wife's cell phone. In my mind, I can see her sliding out of bed, pulling on her housecoat and cinching it above the baby bump, she's 6 months along now, and walking out into the hallway in her slippers, stifling a yawn with the back of her hand. I can see her waking the kids, 11-year-old Kevin first, followed by 7-year-old Heather, and telling them that they only have about an hour or so before the buses come, so if they want breakfast, they better get a move on. Only Kevin will really find this an incentive, as at his age he'll eat whatever and whenever he can. By contrast, Heather may nibble on a piece of toast with a little marmalade spread, but likely won't eat much of anything else until lunch, meaning around 10:30 tonight. It's still hard for me to wrap my mind around that aspect of our new reality. Kids eating lunch in a school cafeteria while it's pitch black outside, then running around for recess under stadium lights. And speaking of lights, the departure of the sun from ordinary human life has inspired some interesting substitutionary innovations. From dusk until dawn in our community, and from what I can see in the news and on social media, most everywhere else around the world as well, it's like Christmas, or maybe Las Vegas, all year round now. Rachel, my wife, says it's like living inside of an arcade game, lacking only for the sound effects. Festivals and celebrations of light are held throughout the year, usually with seasonal themes, and are taken very seriously, with valuable prizes for the winners. There's a distinctly melancholy, really rather desperate aspect to this indulgence in every form of illumination, but also a delicate and richly compelling beauty. As creatures of the night now, humans are discovering an entirely different side of themselves, and revolutionizing creative expression in the process. "You going to the play tonight?" Roger asks as we pull along the curb in front of my house. "Have to," I say. "Heather's in it, remember?" "Oh, that's right," Roger says, shaking his head with a sigh. "I don't know how I could have forgotten that. This week's getting a little long, I guess." "Sure is," I reply. "Midnight school plays. Man, we never could have imagined such a thing when we were growing up." "Yeah, it's still hard to believe it," I say. "But unless they find a cure for this thing, before long, a whole generation will grow up never having known anything else." "I'm going to have a hard time falling asleep with that thought running around in my head," Roger says with a laugh. "Well, maybe Helen and I will see you tonight. Get some sleep while you can." After Roger drops me off, I learn from Kevin that my wife is on some kind of early conference call for work, so I decide to hang out downstairs with the kids until they leave for school. We talk a little, although I do most of the talking while they mumble sleepily at me in reply. Then the bus comes for Heather. "Remember, Daddy, the play starts at midnight," Heather reminds me as she runs to the bus, book bag and pigtails bouncing. "So don't sleep too long." I blow her a kiss and promise I'll be there. Kevin leaves half an hour afterward with a wave and a "later, Dad," and Rachel texts me to tell me that she's off the call if I want to come up. I find her standing in front of our bathroom mirror in a bra and half-slip. She's running her grandmother's silver brush through her dark brown hair. "Hi," she says without turning. "Sorry about that, but Larry had something that just couldn't wait, in his exalted opinion anyway, and you know the way he goes on. How was work?" "Long," I say, and I'm struck by how weary I sound. 3 straight days of 12-hour shifts and still one more to go. She gives my reflection a sympathetic look, and then lays her brush down on the bathroom counter and comes to give me a kiss. "You look really rough," she says, smoothing my hair back from my forehead. "Bad morning on the beach?" "No, it wasn't that," I say, wondering for her sake how much I ought to get into this. But she's already asked me, and now she's giving me an expectant look. She'll be insulted if she thinks I'm holding back to protect her. "We got an emergency call this morning to pick up 3 teenagers who'd been out sun running, as they call it." She draws back from me a little at this and quirks her mouth as if she's just bitten into something sour. Is that as stupid as it sounds? And then some. Basically, it's this new "I double dog dare you" kind of game where they run back and forth out into the daylight until there's only one of them left who isn't puking or falling over or just too plain scared to keep going with it. Rachel's head drops and she turns and walks back to the sink. She picks her brush up and begins pulling it through her hair in long, hard strokes. That is just... She gives her hair 3 more quick swipes and turns back to me. "How can anyone be so foolish, Stephen? I know teenagers do dumb things to rebel or to impress each other or just because they're bored. I did that kind of thing too. But this is just plain stupid. And after all the people who've died, it's unbelievable." "No argument here," I say, heading toward the closet. "Well, are they going to be okay?" One of them, a 16-year-old boy who's apparently the block's reigning sun run champion, passed out on the lawn and they had to drag him back inside the house. He's in a coma now, and if he makes it, the doctors think he'll have brain damage, probably paralysis to one extent or another. It's basically the same effect as having a major stroke. "Unbelievable," Rachel murmurs, pulling a blouse and skirt combination down from a hanger. "What about the other 2? "A boy and a girl, both 15. They had the shakes and could hardly stand up when we got there. They might get off lucky, but the hospital's going to hold on to them for a day or 2 just to be sure they don't start having seizures." "So where were the parents when all of this was going on?" Rachel asks. "Up in Jasper, visiting with family for a few days," I say, shrugging out of my work shirt. "Roger called them while we were on the way to the hospital. They said they were going to try to catch a dark horse and head back as soon as possible. They were pretty frantic." A dark horse is the popular name for a car, van, or bus with blacked-out windows and driven by one of my kind, someone who can tolerate the sun. They're usually hired for emergencies, although certain particularly stubborn types use them daily to commute to blacked-out offices, where they try to act as though nothing has changed in the world. Most people don't see the point in it, though. In fact, they see it as a rather morbid affair, riding in a blacked-out vehicle to a garage and then walking through a blacked-out building up to a blacked-out office. A friend of mine says it's a claustrophobic feeling, like being taken from the inside of your sock drawer and stashed in your underwear drawer instead. As far as he's concerned, and most others for that matter, it's better to be able to move around out in the open and look out of a window, even if it is dark outside. Rachel's cheeks are flushed, and she jerks her skirt and buttons her blouse with quick, angry little movements while we're talking. She looks like she wants to yell and cry at the same time. She lost both of her parents, her brother, her sister-in-law, and her nephew during the shift. They were on a cruise in the Caribbean, a cruise Rachel would have been on as well if Kevin hadn't come down with the flu right before she was scheduled to leave. This was at the beginning of the outbreak, when half the population was complaining of sudden onset headaches and a heightened sensitivity to sunlight, but before scientists and medical personnel had any real understanding of what was happening. "Sorry to upset you," I tell her. "I probably shouldn't have told you all of that." "It's not your fault," she says. "I'd have heard about it on the news sooner or later anyway." I get changed and ready for bed while Rachel gets her things together and packs her lunch. She's the assistant HR director for an up-and-coming IT firm and will likely get the nod for the directorship if her boss follows through on his plan to retire next year. "Don't oversleep now," Rachel says when she pops back into the bedroom to kiss me goodbye. "I know you're really tired, but Heather's so anxious for you to see her in the play." I smile and hold up my phone as I sit down on the bed. "Got my alarm set." "Well," she says with a skeptical look, "I'll call you just to be sure you're up." "Good idea," I reply with a yawn. Then she's off and I stretch out and pull up the covers. I fall asleep almost immediately, but I dream too much to make it a really restful sleep. I keep seeing the boy we picked up that morning. Chad Holmbrook was his name, lying unconscious as Roger and I try to revive him. I keep hearing Rachel saying, "just plain stupid," and "unbelievable," as if she were at the scene as well and standing just behind me. When my alarm finally goes off at 11 o'clock, it takes a lot of fatherly love to get me out of bed, and then some husbandly love to sound pleasant when Rachel's wake-up call comes 5 minutes later. But I'm looking and feeling reasonably human when I get to the school at 11:30. Rachel and I find one another up by the front office and go to our seats in the section reserved for families of the cast. As I expected, the gym is packed. School plays have become community events. As we're sitting down, we see Roger and Helen across the room and exchange waves. The play is being put on by the 1st through 3rd grades. It's based on a children's book, The Sun Thief, written by Heather's teacher, our own Evelyn Lambert, who taught both Rachel and I in the 3rd grade. The book was published about 8 months ago, became an instant success, and has remained on the New York Times bestseller list since its release. The whole town is immensely proud of her, and she weathers all of the attention graciously enough. But Rachel and I are a little worried for her. Her son took his own life about 2 years ago after falling into a deep depression following the death of his father. It was Roger and I that found him on the beach and had to bring her the news. She shouldered the loss with dignity, but those who have known her for a long time have noticed a subtle change in her. She stoops now in a way that she never did before, in spite of being nearly 80. And there's a wistful, remote expression in her gaze when she's quiet. I don't know whether she's looking into the past or into some far-off country where her husband and son await. Rachel and I hardly have time to skim our programs before the lights dim, children file onto the stage, and the play begins. Through a series of narrators, including Heather, a.k.a. narrator number 3, we are told the following tale. Over a course of thousands of years, the moon and stars grew jealous of the glory of the sun and of the love that the people of the earth lavished upon her. Eventually, their envy and hatred became so great that they conspired together and imprisoned the sun behind bars of blackest night, so that no one ever again would enjoy her warmth and light. Without the sun, a dark, frigid winter fell over the world. People became despondent, for scarcely could they see one another, and scarcely could one warm his hands even by a fire. Overcome by the hopelessness of the world and all whom he met, a boy named Joshua made a perilous journey to find the prison of the sun, which, at long last, he discovered atop a mountain that rose like a tower into the dark heavens. The sun was overjoyed to see a friend, but try though he did, the spell of the moon and stars proved too powerful, and Joshua was unable to either break the bars or open the lock to free her. The sun wept glowing tears when the rescue proved futile, and still more when Joshua told her how the world missed her so and longed to see her bright face again. And then the boy noticed a peculiar thing. When the tears of the sun fell to the ground, they hardened into the most magnificent gems, like golden diamonds, glowing with a fierce inner light. Joshua took these sun tears back to his village, where they filled the villagers' homes with warmth and real light again, gladdening the hearts of all who received them. Joshua had made many more such trips to the sun, accompanied by friends and his sister Sarabeth, although none was brave enough to follow him up the treacherous heights to the prison of the sun itself. With each visit, Joshua gave the sun greetings from the lands below. He told her how she was loved and missed, and how the people rejoiced to have even her tears by which to remember her. Always more tears fell, and Joshua would bring them down to his companions, and they, in turn, passed them on to all whom they met, and they to still others. In time, with her weeping and despondency, the sun grew smaller, and her light began to dim. The tears she shed grew smaller and dimmer as well, until Joshua dared risk taking no more from her. "I fear that I die," the sun said to Joshua one day, and she had grown so weak that he had to lean very close indeed to hear her words. "I have given my light until I have no more to give, and with me dies the hope of the world, while the moon and stars mock my fate and the bitter night holds fast." Moved to tears himself now, Joshua drew from his pocket the first sun tear, the light by which he used to find his way up and down the mountain in the dark. "It cannot be, nor can I bear such suffering," he said, and he touched the tear he held to the face of the sun. "Please take back what you have given, and live." As he touched the tear to the sun, it seemed to melt in his hand, and was taken back into her again. As this happened, Joshua saw that the sun brightened, and his heart skipped, for he suddenly understood how hope might be reborn. Leaning closer to the sun, he whispered, "My friend, I know how we can all be saved, but you must trust me. Give all that you have into my hands." The sun passed the last of her strength into Joshua's hands, and as she shrank and faded to the barest ember, he suddenly reached through the bars, took her in his hand, and pulled her through. The sun flared in his grip as he rejoined her to the tears she had shed into his hands, and Joshua turned and fled as swiftly as his feet would carry him, for he knew what he must do, and what's more, he knew that it could be done. But the moon and the stars, which had until then rejoiced at the dimming of the sun, and at what they supposed would be her end, saw the thing and cursed the boy's cleverness. As he fled with the ember of the sun in his bosom, they sent a freezing gale of wind, which blinded him with snow, and as he struggled to find the path to the valley, the wind blew with all its strength, until it hurled Joshua from the summit to the valley below. Sarabeth and Joshua's friends rushed to where he lay at the foot of the mountain, his body broken on the rocks. They knelt beside him in the snow, and Sarabeth took his hand. "My brother," she wept, "oh, forgive us. We had not the courage to climb with you, else we might have spared you. And now what shall become of any of us?" Gathering all of his strength, Joshua drew his cloak aside, and there, to the astonishment of all, glowed the ember of the sun. "Take her, sister," Joshua whispered, for his life was fast fading. "Give her your tears, for they are her life and your hope." Sarabeth understood his words. She drew forth the sun tear she carried, and reaching with utmost care, she drew the sun from Joshua's side and brought the two together. The sun grew brighter, and, it seemed to all, a fraction larger as well. Quickly each of the others gave back their own sun tears, and in spite of her sorrow for her fallen friend, the sun rejoiced as she felt her strength returned, shedding her light warmly on the gathered children. "Together there is hope," Joshua said, smiling in the glow of the sun and squeezing Sarabeth's hand once more before his spirit flew to the winds. The children took the rekindled sun and bore her to their village with the body of their friend and brother, and the word of what had happened and of what it could mean went forth that very night. From over land and across the seas they came, all who had received the tears of the sun, and while the moon and stars raged and sent great scouring winds in vain to stop them, each came and gave back the tears that he or she had received. Before many days passed, the sun grew and blazed forth with her ancient splendor, and when all had been restored, she rose once again into the heavens, while the winter snows melted, the jealous moon and stars faded from view, and all the grateful earth rejoiced. In that village a monument was soon erected, and many traveled from afar to see it, and to pay their respects to fallen Joshua, the one who had restored their hope, and who was known the world over as the Sun Thief. His carved likeness now stands atop the monument, as though having just emerged from the mountain-top prison of the sun. In his right hand he holds a shining globe, the ember of the sun, and with his upstretched left he reaches out to the carved likenesses of the children gathered around him, each holding his or her sun tear aloft, with which to restore the life and glory of the sun. At the monument's base, in a place which sees the first light of each new day, are written these words, "Together there is hope." At the end of the play, the lights are turned off until only a spotlight remains on the stage. There's a standing ovation, well earned in my opinion, and while it's going on, the children come down from the stage and stand at the ends of each row, holding baskets. Mrs. Lambert then goes to the podium where the children had taken turns with the narration and says, "Thank you for coming this evening. We hope that you enjoyed this presentation, and most of all, we urge you to remember, for no matter how dark the days may seem, the true light of this world dwells in our hearts and in the love that we share with one another. The more we give, the brighter grows the light of this world. With this in mind, the children have a gift for you." At this, the kids began passing out small, clear plastic bulbs with golden yellow lights in them, and the words, "Together there's hope," stenciled on them. The play in this final gesture of handing out the sun tears is surprisingly moving. There are few dry eyes in the house. Afterward, Rachel goes back to work. Heather is given early dismissal for her part in the play and comes home with me. And after making her promise to stay inside the house, I go back to bed for a couple more hours. Kevin will come home on the bus around 3:30 and will almost certainly wake me up for one reason or another. One more day to go in my long week, then I'm off for a few days. As I lie down, I set the sun tear on Rachel's pillow next to me and think what my grandmother used to call long thoughts for a few moments. Joshua, the name of the boy in The Sun Thief, was also the name of Mrs. Lambert's son. The greater themes of the story aside, I can only wonder what this choice means to her on a more personal level. The Joshua of the story brings life and hope, but Mrs. Lambert's Joshua took his life because he had no hope. There's an incongruence here between the two that I can't easily reconcile. I'm still thinking on all of this when I finally fall asleep in the sun tear's amber glow. December 21st, 5:30 a.m. We're a family of 6 now. Number 5 is our newborn son, Andrew, who may have inherited my immunity. We won't know for sure, however, until he's about 2 years old, at least with current testing methods. Number 6 is my 4-year-old niece, Natalie. Rachel and I are adopting her because my brother and sister-in-law are both experiencing too many seizures from the exposure they took during the shift to properly care for her anymore. She misses her parents, but she's adjusting and seems happy enough with us most of the time. I kiss everyone goodbye except for Kevin, who outgrew that sort of thing by the ripe old age of 8, and leave to pick up Roger, as it's my turn to drive. The sky is clear, the stars are beautiful, the UV warning lights all around town are still green, and the streets are full of cars and people. I don't know if I'll ever get used to seeing such activity this early in the morning, even so close to Christmas. At 5:45, as I'm pulling up in front of Roger's house, the UV lights change from green to yellow. And then at 6:30, when we're sitting in the van eating breakfast biscuits and hash browns, they begin to flash. The streets finally start to clear, and the eastern sky blushes a pale blue. At 7:05, we're driving along the beach, and both of us groan as we see a lone figure sitting on the sand. A woman, by all appearances. We exchange a look. "You're way better at this, pal," Roger says. "Yeah, well, good for me," I mumble as I get out of the van and think of what I'm going to say. This is the stuff of my nightmares. Going to the beach is a common way that people take their lives in our oceanside community these days. They simply go out and sit on the sand or stand in the surf, waiting for the sun to rise. Most of the time we find them when it's too late, but even on those occasions when we're in time to help, it's not often that we can talk them out of it. Most who get this far have firmly made up their minds to go through with it, and at that point there's really nothing we can do but wait until it's over and take the body to the morgue. I hate this. I understand it, and I don't blame them for it. Many of them have lost everyone they loved, and some battle continuous pain from the injuries they experienced during the shift, but there really are days when I ask myself how much more of this I can take. The woman hears me coming, turns, and gives me a smile. "Good morning, Stephen. Come to talk me out of it?" "Mrs. Lambert?" I'm still for a moment, unable to speak further. She looks up at me with an expectant and frankly amused expression, and I give up whatever it was I was planning to say and sit down beside her. She pats my knee. "So, how long will it take?" "I understand about 10 minutes or so." I swallow heavily. "At your age, yes, probably 10 minutes or so before total neurological failure. Most people lose consciousness in about 5 minutes, though. As if on cue, the UV lights along the Bay Bridge turn red. The pre-dawn sky is now quite bright, and I can see every line in my old teacher's face. Can I ask you why? She smiles again as a cold wind stirs up her gray bangs. You've given hope to so many. Why do this now? Her eyes glitter as she looks to the east, toward the sunrise that will kill her. Joshua showed the world how to save the sun. But he didn't do it by himself, she says quietly. He did his part, and then he passed on. The doctors tell me I have pancreatic cancer, Stephen. It's already at stage 4. I have about 2 months left. It actually doesn't hurt all that much. Mainly, I just feel tired. I wince at this and murmur, I'm sorry, knowing that there's nothing that can be done. I've heard doctors discussing that diagnosis before. It's invariably a death sentence. I don't intend to spend my last days confined to some dark room. I've passed on my light. I've been the sun thief for others. Now I'm going to steal a little for myself. She nods at me and winks as only grandmothers can. I try to smile, but there's a bitter taste in my mouth. I understand, I tell her, and I do understand. Not just her motivation in choosing how her life would end, but something else that I didn't understand before as well. That's why you named the boy and the sun thief after your son, I say to her. In his own way, he went looking for the sun too. I asked the sun if she cried for my boy, she says in a choked voice. I dreamed of him bringing me her tears. His hands glowed with them. He was smiling like he used to, and he told me, this light doesn't hurt, Mom, so I brought some for you too, for us to share. Now it all makes sense. Joshua showed his mother the way to hope, and through the fable she wove around him, she passed that hope on to others. Do you want me to wait with you, or would you rather be alone? My voice is little more than a whisper, but she hears me even over the crash of the surf. I would most definitely not like to be alone, she says, and her hand closes over mine. We wait together in silence. You found me at home, Stephen, she says as molten gold forms along the mountain ridges on the verge of spilling over. You and your friend there. Please, let them believe I passed peacefully in my sleep, for their sakes, the children. It needs to be that way. At home, I agree. Roger will understand, as will the attendants at the morgue. It wouldn't be the first time we've honored such a wish. A moment later, the sun crests the mountains and shines down on us. Her silver hair seems to blaze like a white flame at its touch. Her fingers entwine with mine and squeeze. Oh, glorious, she breathes. Glorious. I hear they're planning a monument now. There's not much doubt in my mind what it will look like. Thank you for listening to this reading of my original short story, The Sun Thief, A Tale from the Shift. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a like. Please consider subscribing to the channel and sharing the content with anyone you think may be interested. Thank you.